everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at whcc.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@whcc.com. Carl Caylor is a fantastic senior photographer from the Michigan Upper Peninsula. He's one of those guys that you just really like. Carl never has a mean thing to say about anyone. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He's a hard worker and a man of integrity. And he thinks that refining your creativity actually requires being less refined in general. He also thinks we all need to just take some time, slow down, and take it all in. I was happy to do just that with him this past year at Sync 2019 in Destin, Florida. Have a listen.
Refined creativity.
Refined creativity.
With
Carl Caylor.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure what it means, but it sounds really cool.
It does sound cool.
It does. Refined creativity. And, you know, several years ago, when I was tagging along with some people, Darton Drake, and you know Darton real well, and Scotty Dupra, and those folks, I was helping them with their programs, and we'd travel around the world, and they would carry their slide trays for them, because that was back in the days before we had the electronic devices.
That was a big piece. Everyone needed a slide tray carrier.
Yeah, because there's 24 carousels, and it took us like the whole back of the truck to get stuff to the convention. So they needed help, and I was more than happy to do that, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience in most cases. But we were out in New England, and it occurred to me as I was sitting in, and I don't even remember if it was Darton's or Scotty's program, but it occurred to me that, you know, they're not just talking about creating photographs. They're not talking about taking pictures. They're beyond that. They're a psychology beyond, you know, what we use our cameras for. You know, we learn about f-stops and shutter speeds and depth of field and all that, and that's great. That's wonderful. It's technical, but it's not what they really want to achieve. And I remember being out of the program, and in the hall we were talking to Pat and Chris Beltrami. And their names a lot of us have maybe forgotten over the years, but
some of the best people I have ever met.
Individual best folks you'll ever want to meet, absolutely, and talented beyond belief as well. And I remember Chris asked me, "Well, what are you learning?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I learning?" He said, "Well, you're here listening to these really talented individuals. You have to be learning something." And I said, "You know, let me think about that for a second." And later that evening, I said, "You know what? I have an answer for you." He said, "What do you mean? What's your answer?" I said, "Well, I think that it's more about psychology. It's more about refined creativity. It's not just f-stops and shutter speeds. It's what we see when we look at a finished print. It's what we see as a human being, as a viewer of an image, when we take a look at that flat piece of paper that Darton just sold us to put on the wall, and then it's framed to the nines. It is all the little things we look at, the detail work, making sure that that person's hands look just right, making sure that the lighting and expression match each other, and that the story that he's trying to get across, whether it's a happy, smiley story, is lit in a way, or is using a form of light that says happiness. So a short light situation would be more happy. His really game face type of deep, darker, mysterious things were more split light or Rembrandt light. And I started learning that, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not just about learning how to use your camera.
Right. Maybe there's more to it.
A little bit more. And so, and I started diving into that. So I started learning more and more about psychology and human cognition, how people see things, and how our customers see an image and why they like one more than the other. And a lot of times, most of the time, they don't realize why they like one more than the other. So you can put photograph A and photograph B right in front of them, and I know they're going to like B every single time.
Right.
They won't know why.
And you know why.
I know why.
They don't know why.
Yeah, because we can mess with their minds, and it's so cool. The issue, it is so cool. I love messing with people's minds. It's so great.
I like how you put it.
Yeah, but we can make them like enough more that our sales go up,
right? Which
is a really nice thing. But what I see here, and I was just reminded of this yesterday. We were here at Sync, obviously, and I don't want to really talk too much about Sync because people that are listening to this podcast might not be aware that we're at Sync right now and enjoying this wonderful conference. But we had just judged a print competition. And so several of the people that entered images have come up to me in the last few days and asked, well, why did this image level off here? Why did it only score this? And I could sense disappointment, as we all do.
Of course.
We all think we're going to do better.
Nobody asks why their image scored 100.
Yeah, exactly. But they should, because maybe
they should. You want to know how you can do it again.
Yeah, exactly. But, what I think I was reminded by those questions the last few days was I kept thinking back to Pat and Chris Beltrami, and the question he asked and the answer that I finally gave him was that it's more than just f-stop shutter speeds and depth of field or color harmony. It's all of it together and how we perceive things. But even more than that, what I'm seeing, what we're missing here, I think, in our industry right now, because we have a lot of, it's new again, it's growing, it's evolving.
Do you think?
Oh, absolutely it is. It's evolving again. It's a constant change.
Okay.
Because for a while, everybody was, film and now the new film and the new black and white stuff. Now that we have T-Max and we have T-Max 3200 and we can process it in AccuFine and make a grain really small. And then they came out with something new, and then the color kind of went along with it, and we had some high-speed color stuff. Because remember back when we were shooting, VPS 160, and we rated it at 80, because that's really what it should have been. So half of the rating, But in those days, we look at that work, and it is a different feel to it.
Yeah.
But it's just a medium.
Right.
It's just a medium. Right now, as silly as this sounds, I want to become less refined. In seeing all these, the new, fresh ideas of some of the newer photographers and even people that are reinventing themselves, it is amazing the creativity that I saw in this last print competition here at Sync. 554 images or something like that. It's crazy.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it was so inspiring. And I saw so many creative ideas that I'd look at and go, dang, I wish I could be that creative.
Do you?
I do. I wish. Because sometimes we become too defined, too refined, that we have this tunnel vision, and we have this, the little person on our shoulder saying in my ear, man, what would the judge say about this? Or, maybe I better do this. And all of a sudden we become so caught up in that too much time elapses, and we lose our interaction with that subject.
So you have those thoughts in the midst of a session.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you really?
Absolutely. And it's something I wanted to bring up too.
Yeah.
In that, and I tell my athletes this all the time. And I thought, maybe this is appropriate for our photographers too. We love photography. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't love it. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be in this industry if it wasn't a passion or a hobby first.
Right.
Nobody just gets out of college and says, well, I went to school for an accountant, and as I was doing that, it said everything I looked at, according to the books, thought photography is the way to go. Right. It just didn't happen that way.
You're not going to get that, right?
So we love it. So I tell my students and my athletes a lot of times as a coach, I say, you know what? It's your senior year. You've worked your butt off to get to where you are right now. You've put in hours and thousands of hours and blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep.
Every once in a while during the game, so Friday night, you're at the football game, you're not in the play right now, you're on the sideline, take a minute, blank everybody out, and just look around and enjoy the moment. Because when you get out of high school, you miss that. It's not going to happen again. These are magical times.
Yeah.
And you just can't, they don't always exist. And in photography, when we're photographing somebody, and I'm photographing a senior, we're on location somewhere, and maybe we're out alongside of a lake or something somewhere, and we're getting everything prim and proper, And all of a sudden we're like, okay, we got done with this outfit. Mom, why don't you take her back to over here and let's get her into that next outfit that we talked about. Breathe once, take a breath, and just look around and you say, this is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment. We're missing those little times that we were so happy with as a hobbyist. And I think if you take time and do that every once in a while, my too much refinement and too much tunnel vision sometimes can transition into another creative thought. So if we kind of take a moment to live in that moment and kind of like block everything out for a second and look around, we're like, oh, this is so cool. This is fun. Hey, you know what? That would be really cool if we worked over there. So let's go there.
What sort of things do you do then? From an intentional standpoint, if somebody's listening to this and this is resonating with them,
all 12 people, yeah.
Well, maybe 13,
okay,
14
that's
people.
Good. Baker's dozen is good, yeah.
What sort of things can someone do intentionally to achieve what you're talking about? Like to like put into practice.
Give yourself time. Give yourself time. And what I mean by that, and again, we'll use an analogy. When I did photograph a lot of weddings, I used to have long discussions with the bride and groom beforehand. And I said, well, I've been around a lot of weddings. I can help you plan your day so that it is the most fun it can be. And I used to tell them, the biggest thing that I see wrong with weddings is that they don't allow enough time between things to enjoy your day.
Right.
I got here, we got to do the hair, we got to makeup, then we got to be the photographer, and we were already late there. Take time. So in your sessions, everyone is so strict on, okay, 4 outfits, we got to be done in 1 hour because our next one's coming in at 1:02. Say 1:30 instead then, or something. Give yourself a buffer enough that if you want to have a chance to breathe a little bit and enjoy, you can become more creative in that moment.
So in order to stop and smell the roses, you need to allocate time to stop.
Absolutely.
So that you can smell the roses.
And record time.
Essentially, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
So I'm not going to take that same advice because, man, we get working too fast and
what
too
gets
hard.
in your way?
Myself.
How so? Like when you say we get working, so like what is it? What's the enemy of that?
Well,
you?
I think because we're adults, we're always, or a lot of times, we're worried that maybe if we work slow, people will think that we're lazy or we won't look professional enough or they're not getting as much out of us. Because I think sometimes, and especially maybe it's me as in my background is, coaching and things that, if we're not always hustling, you're not giving it your 110%. And maybe that's not true. Maybe slowing down is actually giving more. Maybe taking that time to, wow, this is so cool that we're here and being a photographer and recording this event for this person and the things that we're doing for this person. Let's enjoy that for a second.
My friend told me the other day that every person, like when we ask each other, how are we doing, that he feels pressure to say, I'm busy.
Yeah, right. How many scenes are you guys booked up yet?
Yep.
Oh yeah, we only have 13 spots left. Yeah, right. We could have taken 100.
He feels as though, and a lot of times people will say, how are you doing? Busy? Are you busy? Like that'll be all mushed together. And he feels as though if he doesn't say yes to the question, are you busy? That there's a failure implied there, or there's I'm not doing well implied there, and
I'm not being as successful.
Like success, there's that means, and what he was saying, he was like, I feel as though it should be the other way around. I feel like it should be, how are you doing? Are you busy? Like we should be able to say, no, I'm not busy, and that the person should be like, good for you, like that you're doing well, enough, right?
Yeah,
and that you're not busy, and that part of the reason that you're doing well is that in fact you're not busy
because you're working smarter instead of harder.
You're working and that would be a big piece of it. Like,
absolutely.
Why are you not busy? Well, because I'm working really. I do one session. I do one session a month, and my average is $70,000.
Yeah.
Like those are ridiculous numbers.
But it'll be cool if it was.
Well, you get and that would
absolutely.
be ideal. And yet people feel like in order to be successful, I have to be constantly working my tail off, and if I'm not, that means something is wrong.
Right. Correct.
Is that
it's
part of
exactly what I'm saying?
Is that part of what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Why is it like that?
Human nature.
How has it gotten there?
Yeah. Well, we're hustle and bustle type of people, and I think a lot of it is because we're senior photographers. I mean, that's a big part of what we do. We're always with that younger age. And that younger age right now wants everything instantly.
Yeah.
Everything has to be instantaneous. And it's amazing the following that they have that has to be instantaneous. In fact, we were just having this discussion yesterday. How sick is this? That my daughter is a high school senior right now. So just going to be graduating, and we did her senior portraits, and it was like a battle beyond belief. It's so much easier to photograph other people's kids than your own. But I
don't doubt it.
Exactly. You find out. You'll see.
Yeah.
But I posted some of them on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. And a lot of people liked them. It was, I think, like an example I should give. One of her senior portraits had 91 likes on my Instagram, which I thought, wow, I don't do a lot on Instagram. So I mean, I'm not sure how many followers I really have because I'm not really big on it, and I should be more. But then I found out this last week that my daughter has an Instagram account. I didn't even know it.
Oh, really?
I had no idea because my son never did it, but my daughter's on Instagram, and she had just posted. She had just accepted, and we sent in the first deposit for college.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, it's always fun. But she did a selfie with her University of Michigan certificate or whatever, welcome aboard thing. And within 10 minutes, she had like 400
what?
likes. And I'm going, huh. So I looked at her account. So I started flipping through her account, and I noticed, hey, I can't believe this. She actually posted one of her senior portraits that I took, the one that I liked the most.
Really?
Okay, I had 91 likes. She had like 600 and some.
Oh my goodness!
The same image.
So she really does Instagram.
Yeah. So I thought, but that's the thing. Those are the kids that we're dealing with, and because everything is instantaneous.
Yeah.
I think because we're in a different generation, we find ourselves trying to hustle more to become more relevant in their world of instant feedback, and it might not be the right answer, I don't think. I think, like I said, if we can maybe be more creative for them for the services that we're trying to give.
If we slow down.
Take a breathe, enjoy the moment, enjoy what you're doing, have some fun with it, and then, get those creative juices flowing a little bit.
So the first thing that comes to my mind, if you want to slow down, and I'm not saying that this is true, I'm just throwing it out there.
Absolutely.
This is what
brainstorming.
This is what comes to the top of my head here. If you want to slow down, raise your prices.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, be more efficient, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, like work on, address your workflow, like on the back end.
Absolutely.
Cut down how much time you're spending doing X and Y and Z.
Right. And part of that comes back to the basics as far as getting it right in the camera. Because I hate computers. I hate computers.
I do know that.
And I would much rather not sit in front of my computer until 3 a.m,
right,
editing things that could have been done correctly in the camera.
Do you outsource?
Retouching, yes.
You do.
Rebook You does my retouching right
Great.
now. Yeah.
And that's another thing that you're doing to save yourself time.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that you outsource that stuff.
Absolutely. Good gosh. I mean, I don't have time for zits. I'm sorry, but really, I mean, swear to God. I mean,
who does?
Rebook
You does.
Rebook You has. That's what they want time for. Yeah, that's their passion.
That's their passion.
Good for them, man. Take it away.
Getting those pimples out of the mix.
Yeah, exactly. So, dermatologist, it's all you. It's all yours.
Tell me something. I want to circle back to something because you were mentioning Darton and Scotty. Scotty's still with us. Darton is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Can you? Because some people might not know who those guys are, but can you tell me a little bit from your perspective about Darton Drake?
Darton Drake, I remember we were at a convention in the Midwest many years ago, and Fred Heingardner, and there's another name that a lot of people don't know, but Fred Heingardner was given a program, and it was going to be his last program, and he was going to move to the woods and build a cabin like Thoreau and, fall off the face of the earth because, he just wanted to, get away from it all. And so he he didn't care what other people thought of him. I thought was really cool. And Darton was all over that.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like something he would support.
Darton was all over that. In fact, we went down to see Fred supposed to give his last program together down in Illinois. It was a big road trip. And it turns out that he was doing this other one in the north or the Midwest. Well, Darton's travel plans got delayed. So he missed Fred's last program, and but we were in there for Scotty and I were in Fred's last program, and Fred was easily rubbed people the wrong way.
Okay.
He wasn't afraid to say it like it is and offend people, and so by the end of the program, there was 12 people left, and there's probably 300 people in the room to start. And,
is that right?
He just told me, well, if you don't like them, get out of here. Just get out of the room.
He went out with a bang.
He went out with a bang, and it was wonderful. It was artistic, and there was so much more inner meaning, and people that were there to ask about f-stops and shutter speeds. He just told them to leave. It was offending him.
He wasn't there to talk about that.
No, it was deeper, and if people didn't understand it, whether he was communicating correctly or not, he just get out, go, get away.
Yeah.
So Darton came in, and he was all upset because he missed the program, and he said, well, what happened? I said, well, it was awesome. We had 300 people, and then by the end, there's only 12 of us left there, and Darton's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. So he said, well, I'm doing the same thing tomorrow in my program. I'm going to make sure that by the time it's said and done, there's only 10 people there.
His goal was to get more people to leave? That sounds like him too. So, unbelievable.
It kind of backfired though. It was 2 hours after the program was supposed to be done. The wait staff for the hotel actually turned off the lights because nobody would leave. He got the audience so engaged, and so his way of communicating, Darton's way of communicating the psychology of it all, the heart of what he was doing was so powerful. And his images backed up what he said much.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That people just didn't leave. And it wouldn't matter what he said to them. If he was mean to people, it wouldn't matter. They would have stayed, and they did stay. It was an amazing experience. But that was Darton, and even towards the end of his time here, when I try to call him, most of the time he wouldn't answer his phone. Yeah. And it hurt. And it was hard. But then there was a few times when I left him a message about, I said, I'm having a really hard time right now trying to understand the thought behind the forms of light and how we can create emotion with different things. So looking into shadow in somebody's expression or whatever. And I was really trying to learn, and it was, almost instantaneous. He'd call me back. Yeah. So if I was asking him a question about photography and this, he was instantly my coach again, instantly my mentor again. Right. And so that never stopped.
He was pretty amazing.
He was extremely amazing. And, I think Darton, and I always want to include Scotty Dupro with that, because it was kind of like the same breath. Mm-hmm. Those two hung out a lot together, bouncing ideas off each other. They really changed our world. They changed our industry.
I agree.
Without
100%.
a question. And, the two of them really, even though Scotty is he's not doing photography, he's doing painting, which is phenomenal. Look it up. Oh my gosh. Yeah. His watercolor paintings are doing amazingly well, especially overseas, but beautiful work. But those two always said, don't be afraid to give everything that you have. Don't hold anything back when you're speaking. Don't hold anything back when you're teaching, because everybody's going to take a new twist on things. Yeah. So, and they did. I mean, they really gave it their all. And there was times when Darton was, I think, a little bit upset with himself for that, because he was jealous, because some people were really starting to do well. Yeah, and take off. Yeah. And it was really Darton's work. And, but I think in the back of his mind, he's like, cool. They listened. Right. They sure did. And they did. So Darton's legacy and Scotty's legacy, they will always live on in our industry, because there's 200-300 people that are still inspired and still continuing the same kind of thought process that they had.
Well, and don't you think that both of those guys in particular were always really good at, and Scotty still to this day, really good at refined creativity?
Oh,
like
hugely.
It's like inherent to them.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, and it comes back again, circle back to what we started this conversation with.
Yeah.
They had it all. They had it all. They had the creativity beyond belief.
Yeah.
Just things that were unique and creative and fresh and mysterious.
Yeah, I like that word.
But they had also the technical nailed down. I mean, everything was technically perfect with it. So if somebody, and I see this in print competition now a lot too, I see creativity up the yin yang, whatever yin yang is. I'm not sure, but but
something not offensive, you guys.
Yeah, it was not offensive to anybody. But beyond the creativity, their highlights were perfect. Yeah. Their lighting was always perfect. The exposures everywhere was always perfect. Yeah. And there wasn't a little bit or piece anywhere that wasn't out of place. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe a lot of it, and now I think it might circle back to, and I'm seeing this right now as we're speaking, but maybe that's why Scotty's doing so well as a painter.
Yep.
Right now. Yep. Because he always told me, he said, when you're starting to really, really refine things, mm-hmm. Not creativity, but refined, perfectly done technical things. Tell yourself, if I was talented enough to paint this person in this scene, in this pose, and with this light, if I were to have painted that person that way, then it's okay. But as I'm looking through my camera as a photographer, if I tell myself, would I have painted that person's hand right there?
Yeah, interesting.
Would I have painted that thing behind that person's head that's really kind of distracting? Right. If the answer in your mind is no, then you got to change it.
I see. Mm-hmm.
That's the refinement. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where, studying the painting now and studying all the technical things and refining our technical aspects and artistic aspects and add that to your creativity, then you go over the top. I remember, we'll throw another name out there, Ben Shirk, who's doing okay in print competition in our world. Right. Thank God he's on our side, and the World Cup and everything else, and he's just a good person. But I remember when he was a student and a sponge, and he still is a sponge. I mean, don't let anybody kid you. He's always learning and always growing in this industry. But I remember when I first saw his first work, I thought, holy crap, this guy's got a great imagination. Mm. And the creativity is like over the top. Yep. But if only his lighting was a little bit better. Yeah. I said, when that catches up, look out. And he grew into that. And now there isn't anything that he can't imagine or can't conceive in his mind or visualize that he can't do. Right. He brought it, and Dan McClanahan is the same way. Right. He even said it. He made a comment during one of his programs lately. I finally refined all the technical aspects so I could actually do what I have in my vision.
Whatever's in his brain, he can make
exactly.
it happen.
And how wonderful is that?
Yeah, that's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's how professional we want to be in this industry. That's how talented we all should strive to be.
It's a bar to strive for.
Yeah.
To get to that spot where you can realize your vision down to the nth degree. I think that's the refined piece.
A perfect example. Right? Exactly.
Right. To be able to get every little nook and cranny, to get every little detail just the way you want it, from your brain. And you also have to deal with and learn how to see it really well. Yeah. In your mind's eye first. Absolutely. Too, right? So this was a really good conversation. Refined creativity. And I appreciate the way you talk about Darton. He was my wife's first mentor. Yep. And he means a lot to us, and he's a big part of our story. And I know that you knew him well and for a long time. So thank you for diving into that a little bit.
Absolutely. With me. Absolutely.
I wish you the best, my brother.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, thanks for having me
I look forward to seeing you next. Real quick, where can people find you online?
I'm on Facebook at Carl Caylor, or through my website, photoimagesbycarl.net.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely. Have a good one.